Islamic practice or Islamic belief? And the answer I'll give you again is no, because we believe in the continuity of revelation. If you open the book of Daniel, and I believe we'll be giving you a copy of this booklet as part of your package. It's called the Instrument Prayer. I'm not so sure if that copy is available. But there is a chapter in the book of Numbers, chapter 10, verses 1 to 3. It speaks about the Lord speaking unto Moses, saying, make thee 2 trumpets of silver, that you may call the people to prayer, calling them unto the assembly. And when they shall blow them, all of the assembly shall assemble unto them unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. Can you see that? So it's something which is similar to what took place in the past. It's not something which is institutionalized. That's important. If we believe in continuity of revelation, and that all the prophets came with essentially the same singular message, then at an essential level, we are basically practicing the same kind of form of worship, the same kind of beliefs. There should be no differences in what we do. When we congregate, most of our worship is in congregation of prayer, as we explained in 5 daily prayers. I might also add another reason for the fact that the times change. It's because of the fact that they follow according to different seasons. You see, there was universal time in terms of everybody praying at 8 particular points in time, say 6 o'clock in the morning, or say 7 o'clock in the evening, throughout the world. They didn't have a problem, particularly in the month of Ramadan, because in the month of Ramadan you fast from dawn until dusk. And this will obviously vary in the country that you're based in, depending of course upon the season. So in a country where the days are longer, you see people fasting for a longer period. In countries which are experiencing winter, people are fasting for a shorter period. So assuming the times are basically, if we follow the solar calendar, then we would have a case where people in Europe would basically only be fasting, say for example in winter, at this point in time, and we will be fasting there in summer or vice versa. And so there will be this inequality or inequality in terms of how we fast. So some people will have more hardship, and some people will be less. So therefore you follow the lunar calendar, because in accordance with the lunar calendar, it moves 10 days earlier than according to the solar calendar. So at every point in time, throughout the world, we have people either fasting in the summer, or in the spring, or in the autumn, or in the winter, but it obviously rotates. So it creates a kind of balance and harmony for people throughout the world. We don't have this one kind of thing. That's one of the reasons why we follow the lunar calendar. Now, another time we have, just now go to the particular offices and we've got people dressed. I said that we come to the mosque to pray. But in actual fact, it is incorrect. Because prayer, when you look at the term prayer itself and the definition of prayer, what are you doing? You ask me. You pray. If you look at the living document, it says, please pray that judgment be passed in such a particular manner. You are asking. We do have that in Islam, which we call dua, supplication, where we individually ask God in terms of our daily bread, in terms of our day-to-day affairs and so on. That comes after the worship. I would rather say that we come to the mosque to basically engage in what maybe your Americans would say program. We come to the mosque to program ourselves. And we program ourselves with the data material that is found in the Quran. So our Islamic form of worship would basically entail us reciting certain passages and verses of the Quran, and in doing so, we need to internalize the message and therefore enact it in society. For example, I'd simply start my worship with saying Allah Akbar. I'd raise my hand, I'd fold my particular hands, and I'd then recite passages and verses of the Quran. All praises be to God, the most beneficent, the most merciful, master of the day of judgment, be alone we worship, be alone we ask for help, and so on. And then subsequently, we recite verses and passages of the Quran. For example, chapter 49, verse 13, which says, O humanity, we created you from a single pair, and made you into nations and tribes that you may recognize each other, not that you may despise each other. Most certainly, He exalted you in the sight of God, who is He who is most righteous in conduct. Now we recite that in our salah, in our worship, and after reciting that, the message has to make an indelible impression in our mind. So that basically teaches us that we speak up against racism. Therefore, when we worship and we say stand shoulder to shoulder. And the tradition would tell you that stand shoulder to shoulder to prevent the devil from coming in between you. Now, this devil is not something that you probably see in the art gallery or the museum. It could be having a hooked tail or horns and having a running complexion. The devil that we are talking about here is the devil of racism, the satanic inclinations within yourself, where you basically say, he is black and I'm white, or he is rich and I'm poor, I'm rich and he's poor, I'm better than you. Those kind of devilry in the human psyche, that needs to be put aside. And so therefore we stand shoulder to shoulder in congregational prayer, praying to the one God. After reciting that particular stanza of those verses, we then go in this particular position. And in this position, you bow down and you say, Subhanallah, glory be to God in prayer. You stand up and you say, God hears those who praise Him. Because the Quran tells us that the Almighty is closer to you than your jugular vein, than your life vein. He's in the human heart. He's all over. He's omniscient. He's omnipresent. So He doesn't need you to shout necessarily on the rooftops. He can hear your inner desires and what you think and what you say. And having acknowledged that, you then conclude it by going in this position here. And in that position, you say 3 times, Subhanallah, glory be to God the highest, glory be to God the highest, and glory be to God the highest. The highest point of man or woman, the head. Bowing down to the lowest and you praising God the highest. And in that sense, we basically worship God. Now, this form of worship, we would say that this, in principle, is how all of God created. Order. It might seem like a sweeping generalization, but if you were to open the Old Testament and indeed the New Testament, you basically see passages and verses which give us kind of practical description in terms of how prophets of God pray. For example, you look at the book of Genesis. Genesis chapter 17, verse 3. It says, and Abraham fell on his face and prayed to God. In the book of Joshua, chapter 5, verse 14, it says, and Joshua fell on his face and he worshipped. In Numbers 20, verse 6, and Moses and Aaron and their sons fell upon their faces and the glory of God appeared unto them. Elijah cast himself down on the ground and put his head between his knees. How? Just exactly as the way I demonstrated. Jesus himself in the Garden of Gethsemane, when he takes the disciples after the Last Supper, we are told that he went a little further and fell on his face and prayed to God and said, oh my Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass away from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as thou wilt. In other words, this in principle is how all the prophets of God pray. Now, this is a privilege. This is the right of each and every single human being to worship as God told us to worship, and there's no price paid for this. But in today's secular society, where we have consumerism, where we have absolute materialism, naturally speaking, religion takes on an overtly consumerist stance. Therefore, we have things like transcendental meditation. We have things like imbibing the particular spiritual philosophies of Deepak Chopra. At what cost? People are spending millions and thousands engaging in wanting to learn about transcendental meditation, going to the Maharishi, Mahesh Yogi, as the Beatles did in the early 60s. It was cheap back then. That's why there's so much, because there is a hunger in the heart of every human being, and particularly in European society today, with the void that's existing in the mind of people. People are moving away from organized religion. When they move away from organized religion, what do they look? They look at alternatives. And the alternatives that are presented before them invariably come in more specifically consumerist and hostile forms. This is the privilege, this is the right of each and every single person, every human being. Why not take it? There's no price attached to that. You have the direct communication with God Himself. There's no need for a priest or a predicant or a particular guru to take you towards the spiritual path. It's like this. Some people will tell you that God is absolutely holy. He's so holy that you need a particular spiritual guide to take you to God. But what about telling you that in the city of New York, there was a man that was so holy, he's absolutely holy, he's the embodiment of holiness. And then you basically want to tell me, well, look, I want to meet this man, I want to see who is this holy man. And I tell you, well, look, he can't see you, he's too holy. You think he's holy or is he crazy? If God creates us, then certainly there would be no barrier for us communicating directly with him. And that's the essence of the Islamic faith. That's the basic essence in terms of how we create this interpretive relationship with our text, with our scriptures, and communicate directly with God. We need no